Hello again. This is still Suzy, but not for long because I have the pleasure to welcome on this to this event an icon in the wholesale industry. Whoever is doing international wholesale or wholesale knows her. You cannot be in wholesale without knowing her. And I would like to welcome for this upcoming panel Isabelle, Paradis. Isabelle, bonjour.
Bonjour Suzy, comment ça va?
Très bien, et toi?
Ça va, stressé?
Ouais,
We're on edge. All my panelists are ready to come in. I hope it all works out.
Perfect. So I know the guys are in very good hands with you. I will let you carry on, and it's really warm felt. Really, I'm really happy to have you and the guys and eager to hear all about the future of roaming.
Yes. Last, that is the topic of the day, Suzy. So thank you, Suzy, for the introduction.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon. And in the past few months, Hot Telecom has had the pleasure of cooperating with MEF and some of its members to define the current state and the future of roaming. I think we all, as roaming has been on all of our mind. And through this process, we interviewed a number of roaming superstars around the world in carriers, in operators, in vendors. And we are excited to say that today, this report is hot off the press and available on the MEF website. So after this panel, please go and download this report. You will see it's full of super important information. But the panel today is like the cherry on top, or the combination of all this work, because I will be joined for the next 40 minutes with a group of 6 superstars of the roaming business. And we will have an unplugged discussion during which these superstars will tell us what they think of the current state or the future of the roaming business as in store for us. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our roaming superstars to the panel. First, Atim Akeh-Osu. She's Manager of International Roaming at MTN Global Connect. Brendan Cleary, CEO of International Roaming at MTN Global
Isabelle.
Connect. Hello. I think, Atim, you may have to put some headsets on because I can hear myself. Thank you. Hello, Brendan from Canada, I suppose?
That's right. Hi, Isabelle. Hi, everyone.
The next in line, the next superstar is Csaba Fuezesi. He's head of product management at Deutsche Telekom Global Carrier.
Hi, Isabelle. Glad to be here.
Good afternoon, Csaba. I hope I said your family name correctly. Fuezesi?
Absolutely. Perfect. Cool. Hungarian. Thank you.
Feliciano Micillo is product manager mobile services at Sparkle from Italy, I would think. Feliciano. Then we have Miguel Calvo Vervaet. He's group head of roaming and voice and messaging Ooredoo Group. Hello, Miguel.
Good afternoon, everybody. Bonjour.
And last but not least, maybe one of the most famous roaming superstar of all, no pressure, Nabil Baccouche is VP International Roaming and Mobile Services at Etisalat. Guys, welcome. I think we're missing one of my victims, Feliciano. Maybe will join us a bit later. So let's start without further ado. So, roaming superstar, welcome to the roaming panel. Ready?
Absolutely.
Always.
Oh, I'm not so sure. Guys. Okay, so something that we can start to see the light at the end of the roaming tunnel. I think that. And like a phoenix, the roaming will rise out of the pandemic's ashes. Any of you on this panel do not agree with this?
Yes, we do. Absolutely.
Okay.
Actually,
cool.
the good sign, what we would just emphasize from the DST side, is that although the number of travelers which is driving roaming is still relatively low in many regions, but the amount of data roaming traffic is already above the pre-COVID levels. I mean, looking at our customer base at least.
Yeah, so we're starting to see some recovery in some regions more than others. So from my point of view, I think there's exciting times with roaming. I think for roaming, it's been similar or almost the same for quite a long time now. But I think we are about to enter a new era of roaming. And that's what I want to talk about today. So I will ask you guys, one after the other, to tell me what you think is the most important challenge or trend, present or future, that people watching us should be aware about. Okay, so in one word or very few words, and then we'll go and dig deeper in each of these topics.
I think
yes?
definitely from our perspective, from my perspective, I think the challenges are definitely what we have experienced so far, which is COVID. I think there is a clear, let's say, situation that we all faced in our roaming industry for the past 18 months. Some, I think, managed to cope with it. Some region probably less. I think for the UAE, from UAE perspective, we managed pretty successfully to cope with it on a positive note, because obviously the country was open pretty early, let's say in last year. June, July, the country started to reopen. We start seeing some visitors. Some of our outbound subscribers managed to, let's say, travel abroad. And this trend, obviously, depending on the situation with the different variants that we have experienced, obviously impacted us or positively or negatively. But most of the time, I would say, and until now, and obviously this past summer that we experienced was a pretty successful summer, with a lot of our travelers going to Europe mainly. And obviously from an inbound perspective, knowing that the Expo is around the corner next week, we'll have the great challenge to host the Expo, which is an excellent news for the country. And we're expecting a lot of inbound, hopefully a lot of inbound subscribers. So I think depending on the region, definitely some regions managed to cope with it negatively because of the situation, like in Asia, like some part of Africa. And some region managed to cope with it on a positive note, like, for example, the UAE and some part of the Middle East and Europe, I would say.
So I guess talking about Europe, so I guess Csaba, you see the situation in Europe. Do you see a similar trend? I mean, in terms of data roaming, voice roaming, what do you see more Europe-centric?
Yeah, I think in Europe, we can definitely see the increase in adoption of roaming, which in the practice means that there are more people traveling. Still not as much as before COVID. So COVID, just joining to Nabil's statement, is definitely a major hit on the roaming industry. But at the same time, we see the signs of the full recovery. So we are on a very good path. In Europe, we have seen a very nice data roaming traffic recovery, which doesn't mean actually that as many people are traveling as before, but the ones who travel definitely generate more data. And that was also helped by a couple of large events in Europe, like the European Football Championship, which was really giving a boost into this kind of development, at least within the European framework, where the room like and home concept is also a major influence.
And during the interviews I've had with some of you guys, I heard some of you say that the data traffic is exploded for each roamer by 3 times to what it was pre-pandemic, or even I think 1 year ago. So the explosion of the data roaming traffic is happening. Maybe the data roamers aren't where they were at before. This is improving, obviously, by region, but actually the usage per roamer is exploding. So it is good news. It is coming back. So what about Atim? Atim, you're more based in Africa. What do you see about the recovery of the pandemic? Is it still taking time? What's the status on your side?
Well, it's interesting because the pandemic brought one of the most devastating experiences in roaming. And over the last 18 months, I mean, it was almost as though people couldn't wait to get out. There was practically a halt in the Hajj, for instance, the pilgrimage that people are used to, the summer holidays. So we kind of got a standstill. But in the last 6 months or thereabout, as borders are opening and restrictions are removed, we're seeing some uptick. People are moving, people are traveling, and we're hoping that, we're making strides. I see more outbound travel, particularly from Africa. Some people are taking time on the inbound side. We saw a few permanent roamers, during the pandemic. And then this has been summer times in the last 2 months. So most people have gone back to to Europe and other places. But yeah, generally we're seeing a lot of more outbound travel as things open up a bit.
Okay, so that is now. Now, if we start looking in the future, Csaba, what do you think in the future will be the key, disruptor for the roaming business?
I think there are multiple trends what we can emphasize here. One of them is the explosion in data roaming. We already mentioned that one. On top of this, 5G roaming is coming. Mobile operators and also carrier need to make sure that they are prepared for this new challenge. 5G is going to bring completely new challenges and a lot of additional complexity. And companies like Telecom Global Carrier are here to help these mobile operators to make sure that these challenges are going to be handled properly.
Okay.
On top of this, I would also say that many old technologies are also phased out. We can just see the 2G, 3G sunsets in the different countries. If both of these technologies are going to be turned off, of course, we can see drivers into areas like water roaming. This is also an additional trend and challenge what MNOs and the roaming departments need to handle.
Okay, because I think, and again, talking to all the experts of roaming around the world during the process, is 5G will be a trigger of a lot of changes in roaming. One maybe in terms of security, in terms of quality, requiring quality end-to-end with SLAs that follow that, in terms of network management, slicing. This is going to be, from my point of view, and I want to know if you agree with me, the trigger for a completely new type of roaming business model. Do you agree with me?
Absolutely, fully agree with that one. Plus, I would also say and add that due to the increased complexity, mobile operators are outsourcing more and more solutions to the carrier community, just to make sure that with the same amount of resources and budgets, they can handle these upcoming challenges.
And Miguel, you haven't said what you thought so far. What do you think? What do you see in Ooredoo? Is that something you're getting ready to deploy? And what do you see it as a change for you? For your region?
So let's say from our perspective, of course, we were quite early in Qatar specifically on launching the 5G. The big change has not come yet because we're still in non-standalone. The big change will come when we have standalone, and might be triggered by the World Cup we're hosting next year, which of course will drive, let's say, recovery even faster. In our, let's say, ecosystem at this point in time, same as Nabil and any of the other panelists, we've seen a big difference in recovery, and very much driven by the pandemic, and also the flexibility in the markets in how to handle this. Overall, the partnerships we have with our global partners are good, and we've had a constructive way of handling this, supporting each other where needed, having tough discussions where needed, but overall was a good way of handling an unseen precedent in this market. So hence why I think we're only looking up at this point in time. Everybody's eager to grow the business in all the senses, which is not unusual at this point in time. So that's certainly something that only gives us good faith that it will recover quickly. And I think the most important from a market perspective is that we enable the same quality that we used to, and make sure that when the traffic picks up, that we have the right solutions and retail offers in the market to feed the travel need that people have after being locked down for over 18 months.
And talking about security and quality, I guess, Brendan, you've been hiding from me. Even if you're Canada, you cannot hide from me very long. You know me. What's your view on that with 5G and what's going on in the industry in terms of quality and security?
Yeah, I was trying my best. I didn't get away with it.
No, it's not working with me.
Yeah, I think certainly one of the trends, with 5G security, and indeed all of the other points that the panelists were making, the need for tools and the ability to see what's going on is very important. A lot of things are changing, whether it be the explosion in data, whether it be IoT or end-to-end traffic, or even just a kind of adoption of eSIM as well, or more roam like at home. There's a lot of things that are changing. And in order to kind of stay on top of those things that are changing, you need to see what's happening, you need to be able to quantify it, you need to be able to measure it in order to give you the intelligence you need to properly adapt. One of the things that we're noticing in particular, one of the trends in the industry, is this idea of centralization of services. So obviously, in order to be on top of all of these different solutions that are required, it makes a lot of sense that if you are a operator group or indeed an IPX or a signaling provider, to have all of these solutions centrally. It means that you can have multiple tenants or multiple MNOs that are actually getting the benefit of these solutions, but it also means deploying becomes a lot easier. It means upgrading becomes a lot easier. It means adding support for VoLTE, for 5G, has to be done in one central place, and that's very beneficial in terms of time to market and the kind of flexibility and adaptability that this kind of changing industry requires. I think the other important point as well is on the centralization of technical solutions. It also really enables business practices as well. So if you have a centralized steering of roaming solution, for example, that gives you the ability to send subscribers to different markets based on the different commercial arrangements that are in place, or even indeed to ensure that the quality of service for that subscriber is very high. So, putting a VoLTE subscriber onto a VoLTE network, for example. But it enables businesses practices to be able to, steer large groups of subscribers across multiple MNOs, enabling better rates for wholesale negotiations and agreements. And we're seeing a lot of MNO groups and IPX providers trending in this direction, centralization of a single solution and providing it to multiple players in the industry, and it makes a lot of sense.
And also throughout the interviews, I think one thing that came out is because of all the complexity that 5G will bring, a lot of the smaller operators will not be able to keep up or do it as well as they should. So there'll be a trend about roaming outsourcing, so outsourcing to bigger groups or IPX providers, the complexity of 5G roaming. Also, some have said that there will be some consolidation, so the smaller players won't be able to do roaming, they will just get out of the business. And then the third trend in that spirit is there will appear super aggregators of roaming traffic. So people that are specialized in roaming, and they will be the big players in the ecosystem. But I don't know, do you agree? Is that what you feel as well? Or maybe partly agree with me, guys? What do you think?
This is, of course...
Oh, sorry.
Ladies first.
Go ahead, Miguel. Go ahead.
Atim, go ahead.
All right, yeah. So, well, I think that no matter how small an operator is, there's going to be the need for control. They're just going to want to hold their own, So yes, there will be partnerships and alliances, to the degree that is profitable to many MNOs. As you know, roaming won't exist on its own. There has to be people, roaming customers who we're making the services for. So businesses are going to want to have partnerships, yes, but they also want to have a certain level of control to themselves. In terms of security, there are going to be certain things they're looking at after the exposures of the GRX and the vulnerabilities we've seen in the IPX in itself, So it's going to be very cautious partnerships that I think MNOs are going to be having, but that they will completely be disrupted and give it up, I don't think so.
Okay, anyone has a different point of view to that, Tim or myself?
I think a natural evolution which has been ongoing for long. Originally was roaming hubs, which didn't really succeed to capture the market share it could have. But the long tail is always there. It's the 80-20% rule. Like with 20% of your partners, you cover 80% of your traffic. So this is where there's a lot of efficiencies to be gained in centralizing that indeed, but also doing it in a smart way where you keep control, like Atim said, but also make sure that you have the best solution for your customers. So you'll have to find a middle way in that. And indeed, smaller operators might be a bit slower, but might focus on their key partners on a bilateral basis and on a non-bilateral basis with the rest of the footprint.
Okay. So, Feliciano, you were a late arrival, bless you. I'm sure you had some issues. Don't worry. So, I want to know, what do you think is the biggest trend or challenge that roaming has in store for us in the future or at present?
Yeah. Let's say that for me, my opinion is the machine-to-machine traffic increase, the explosion of data regarding the machine-to-machine traffic. So also in Sparkle, we are seeing this huge impact that also the COVID is bringing, because we see that the traffic is increasing about 45-50%. So let's say that the roaming is passing from human-centric to machine-to-machine centric. So about millions of devices around the world that generating data. So the opportunity here is to, let's say, to catch this new revenue stream that can be generated by the explosion of data. So this is exactly what Sparkle was doing, also offering new services, because probably, yeah, the mobile operator can have the opportunity to provide new services and new connectivity services for large enterprises that have business across multiple countries. So let's say this is probably the challenge that mobile operator can face, can bring. And on the other hand, the mobile operator need to probably change also the typology of roaming agreement, because of different business and charging model behind the roaming agreement itself. So this is something that team is doing, and I guess so the mobile operator are doing. And probably the BCE will help a lot to, let's say, to push and to speed up this process to change the human-centric roaming agreement into machine-to-machine roaming agreement.
Okay, and we have our first question from the floor. Maurizio Gemito is asking you guys, do you believe that MNOs are ready to catch opportunities for M2M business, or they have some delays on changing their business models? I guess, Feliciano, you kind of touched on that, but does anyone else want to discuss that? Is the industry ready? Because I believe not, because it's going to be very complex with private networks involved in there, different types of IoT or M2M networks, different SLAs, different slicing. It's going to be a maze. But guys, what do you think? Anyone wants to jump in to say what they want to say to Maurizio?
For sure, we are, let's say, having to do a transformation in order to cater for that specific type of market. We are at different stages in different markets in our opcos. Some markets are really advanced, have a lot of use cases, have a lot of different verticals. So they have smart cities with the city of Doha. They have metering. They have got automotive verticals. And of course, in the private networks, it's still very early. We have a few of those trials in some of our markets. And of course, it's a learning curve. But indeed, from a regional perspective, I think the statement of Sparkle was a bit too positive. We see in overall that roughly 20% of our data traffic in a COVID market is only 20% machine to machine. So that, of course, is significant already. But if you analyze then the use cases, it's very simple use cases. It's not very, of course, you need to adapt your commercial model in order to adjust to the market. But overall, it will be continuous learning and adjusting to the business model which the enterprises require in order to cater to that. But in our markets, it's not too late at all. We are ready to cater what we have now and being quite successful in gathering that, and also looking at the synergies which we have certainly on the regional level from the Gulf.
Mm-hmm. So
same thing. I think from a UAE point of view, it's I would join what Miguel just mentioned. I think a country like the UAE and a city like Dubai, that is pretty a state-of-the-art city, have developed obviously different use cases from logistics, and obviously now with the expo site that is fully catered in getting, let's say, this M2M business in full shape, full speed. So definitely, I think we are there. It's generating substantial revenues, and I think we are putting really the right focus in expanding that the different use cases. I think from a roaming perspective, it's pretty interesting to notice that during a full lockdown situation, obviously we continue to see some data roaming traffic being generated, and obviously. When you have the whole entire world, let's say in the lockdown situation, and still continue to see this IoT roaming, so you might think that it's permanent roaming, and probably some of it is also M2M in a roaming environment. So all this to say that we are monitoring whether it's in a roaming environment or in a non-roaming environment, but definitely it's a growing business.
And you know me, guys, I always want to know where is the money. And I've been looking for the money in IoT, just IoT overall for a long time. IoT roaming is part of that. But what will a roaming IoT agreement look like, or business model, should I say? How is it going to change the roaming business model? Or will you have multiple types of business model for different types of IoT roaming? Anyone has a view on that?
Yes, but you want me to follow up or not?
Yes,
Yeah, so from our perspective, what we have perceived when you speak to the enterprises who feed this is that they are moving away a little bit from the roaming scenario where everybody was utilizing roaming SIMs to local SIMs, not only because of permanent roaming, but certainly from a quality perspective. Because in the roaming scenario, you always have a certain latency. If you want it or not, that's reality. So for the specific high quality use cases, they're moving away from roaming SIMs to local SIMs or regional SIMs. In the case of Ooredoo, as we've got a number of operators in the region, that of course increases the quality, can increase the SLA, can increase the control we have on it. And that's where you see this. And also from a regulatory perspective, we are, let's say, kind of consultants in how they are compliant to local regulation, which is an important thing. And not all enterprises, of course, have the knowledge of how to deal with local regulations, local entities, and that's where we can add value on top of the pure connectivity side.
Okay, and now we have a second, and we're on a roll, guy. We have a second question from the floor from Jesper. What he's saying is, as a community, we have so far had a tendency to chase the next shining thing, which currently is 5G, and then I guess IoT that we've just discussed. But there is very little visible focus on how to serve those MNOs that will continue to run 2G and or 3G due to no national demand for 4G, let alone 5G. So maybe, Atim, maybe that's a question that is maybe more into your reality, because I know when we spoke during the interviews, you were saying, listen, we're looking at the 5G, for 4 or 5G, but we're still doing 4G and even 2G or 3G. What's your view on that, Atim?
So yes, I remember I asked you where we were running to and what we were chasing. Indeed, that question is very pertinent at a time like this when we're getting MNOs in Europe and some parts of North America wanting to shut down 2G and 3G. And there are many regions that are struggling with even 4G. We don't even have VoLTE in so many places. I mean, now some of them have 4G. The 4G coverage isn't even complete yet, in terms of the proliferation or the spread, so you don't even see the entire community being covered with 4G. And then we're thinking 5G. So these are your inbound roamers. These are your customers, and we're chasing these revenues from the roamers. Like I like to say, roaming doesn't exist as an entity in its own. It exists with customers. And much as we want 5G, at some point we have to decide, is it for bragging rights or is it really for productivity and maximizing revenues? Because there are many regions that are still building the 4G network and hoping to make some gains on VoLTE, for example. But you find that most of the conversations we've had even today are hardly really talking about 4G or even VoLTE, and we're already going to 5G non-standalone. When you don't have the 4G, where are you going to put the radio? What exactly is it going to sit on? And this is going to be a challenge for the next couple of years, because it's going to take, there's a lot of cost to infrastructure for 5G. There's going to be a lot of customer education, device penetration. There's just so many things to deal with at the moment. And most of these MNOs are dealing with this. But, the race to 5G, I think there should be some inclusion in it as while we're doing it. I mean, I know that there's going to be additional costs to MNOs who want to just flush out everything, but the network can't exist on its own. There have to be people who come in and roam. And if they don't even have the devices in these regions, I mean, what are they going to do? Yeah.
Because some people will have devices that don't do 2G, 3G anymore. It will be very complex because we'll have 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G all running in parallel in different countries and regions at different levels. It's going to be very complex.
Yeah, but you see with 4G,
sorry, go ahead, Atim.
Yeah, you see with 4G, there's the CS fallback, and there's so many other things you can deal with. With 5G, until you get a standalone, it's just not completely 5G, So, and then here we are, a lot of people are pushing for 5G standalone already, you know, but I mean, the NSA is a good place to start, but we have to be considerate of most of the regions that are still pulling their weight, as it were.
Guys,
I think
anyone
one
else?
interesting comment, Isabelle.
Go ahead, Nabil.
It's nice to speak about IoT roaming, to speak about 5G, and to speak about all those new technologies. But I think what is important is also we have, and whether it's Ooredoo Group or MTN Group or all the other, let's say, MNOs around the globe, we have subscribers to serve. And I think the customer experience has not been tackled and managed properly so far. When obviously we were in Madrid, Isabelle, and we are still facing some quality issues. And I'm still hearing some complaints left and right from some European, let's say, customers, some let's say American customers, or even when we roam in some countries, that we are still facing some quality of service issues. And I think the IPX pipes correctly, or having all the proper monitoring tools, I think the whole industry needs really to tackle. It's not normal that we roam in a country and we still have this edge sign. That, by the way, I also noticed in my latest trip in Europe. While we are already talking about 5G and even 6G. I mean, 5G, I think from an Etisalat perspective, we launched more than 80 live 5G, let's say, partners, probably one of the highest. We interconnected almost anyone around the globe that is ready on 5G. But I think the whole community as a whole needs to tackle really this quality of service aspects, because those customers that are complaining and having some cases, let's say, edge, let's say, experience, I think we need to make sure that those customers are tackled properly, and we really provide a state-of-the-art service, which is obviously a 5G type of service.
So,
I fully agree with that statement, actually. And when it comes to IoT roaming, especially, that there are completely different quality requirements, and end-to-end quality of service is now a must. There are certain standardizations that are aiming to solve that, and this is what operators are doing in the premium IPX space.
So, Brendan, what you're a vendor in that space? What's your view? What should happen? How can that be improved? Or
yeah, and I agree with those points kind of wholeheartedly, particularly when you look at the landscape of roam like at home, or even indeed eSIMs and people going into countries and kind of registering. You know, price was predominantly one of the main driving factors for the subscriber when they were going abroad to see what kind of services they would sign up to or not sign up to. However, with you know, the price not becoming a factor anymore, or that being kind of compressed by regulations or by market forces, all that's left from the MNOs side of things is to differentiate themselves on quality. So, you know, having that visibility of knowing, well, are my subscribers, as Nabil mentioned there, are they receiving edge? Are they receiving, you know, 3G or 4G services? You have to know, you know, why that is, where it's happening, and to what individuals, and what you can do in order to actually improve those. So having the solutions and tools necessary to monitor in real time what's actually happening with your subscribers, and potentially even communicating with them as well, to say things like, we've noticed that you're receiving a service that, you know, we're not happy with to our standards. We're working on it, or maybe even a suggestion, or, you know, some way of interacting, because I believe that's going to be the differentiator moving forward. Once kind of price becomes, I wouldn't say standardized, but it doesn't become as much as a factor, is focusing on that quality of experience for the subscribers.
And I guess this introduces the topic of VoLTE roaming. And to let you know, guys, I've never roamed on VoLTE yet. Every time I roam, I see 3G when I do a call. But talking to different carriers in the last few weeks and months, I've heard that VoLTE roaming finally is coming. Me and Steve, you know, at Hot Telecom, we've written a lot of things on VoLTE roaming for many years. But now it looks like it's finally coming with the decommissioning of 2G, 3G networks, 5G as well, all that together. I've heard some noise about VoLTE roaming. Any noise on your side, guys?
Yeah, I think this is the time to realize the VoLTE roaming agreement, because they say that with this switch of 2G and 3G network, the only way to continue, keep doing voice traffic in roaming is VoLTE. And also for 5G standalone, VoLTE will be the only way to do voice on in roaming. So probably the mix of this new innovation will bring VoLTE roaming in the center of our discussion with roaming partner and with all the mobile industry. This is my opinion.
And I know we're coming to a close with the panel, but one topic that is interesting is local breakout, because again, we've been looking into local breakout and all the different VoLTE roaming scenarios. And it sounds like the scenario of choice, and maybe you can, before we close, you can tell me if that's what you hear, that will be routed back to the home network. No more local breakout for VoLTE roaming. And I think the GSMA has even removed that as a priority to push it to the operators to use that solution. Just overall, is that what you hear on your side? Is that what you're gearing up to do?
Indeed.
Yeah,
Indeed,
absolutely.
so from a group perspective,
Yes,
that's the recommendation.
Okay, cool.
And that's the official GSMA guideline as well.
Yeah, I saw that.
VoLTE roaming implementation.
Yeah, I saw
I think
that.
it's a preference for many MNOs, really. You know, like you said, it gives you that control to decide what bundles to create from the retail side for your customers and how you want them to use it without necessarily depending on somebody else to do that for you.
Okay.
Also from security standpoint, I think it's important. Yeah.
So, guys, this brings us to the end of our panel, but you're not off the hook. I've got always my last little question, my go-to action question, to leave people inspired about what they should be focusing on about roaming. So I will ask you one after the other to tell the audience what you think is the one thing they should keep in mind to be successful in roaming going forward. So in one word, or three max, okay? Let's try to do that. Miguel, go first. Miguel? Oh, Miguel is frozen. Atim.
Customer experience.
Csaba.
Be ready for 5G roaming enablement.
Feliciano.
IoT roaming agreements.
Brandon.
Take the open-minded and flexible on new technologies.
Nabil.
Recovery mode and jump back into planes, guys.
And on my side, I always close with the same comment: be passionate about roaming, and let's get in. As Nabil said, let's get back on the road. And I think only exciting times are ahead for roaming, so it's a good time to be in the roaming business.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Isabelle.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching, everyone. And go and read our report. It's online on the MEF website. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Isabelle.
Thank you.